Hey, this is Will. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you costs of living in Istanbul, Turkey. I will cover all of the different aspects from food, transportation, accommodation to gym, general goods, so on and so forth. By the way, if you're into digital marketing, online business, or any of that kind of stuff, then check out all of the links in the description. I have some very useful freebies and whatnot. Now let's get into it. So the first thing is food. So when it comes to food, obviously you have two different options. You have the local Turkish food and you have Western food. So when it comes to Turkish food, the cost, I would say, in Istanbul, it depends, by the way, quite a bit on what kind of neighborhood you are, in which kind of neighborhood you are, and whether you're on European side or Asian side. Asian side is obviously much cheaper. And in general, though, I would say it's going to be anywhere from $2 to $4. So $2 is going to be maybe a little bit more of a snack, or maybe if you get sort of a quick wrap. And if you want a proper dish, it's going to be somewhere around $4. By the way, I almost forgot to mention right now as I'm speaking, and actually even within the last couple of years, Turkish lira, the currency here, has been quite a bit on a decline in terms of value. So things seem to be getting cheaper and cheaper. So I wouldn't say expect a drastic change once you come here, but do keep in mind that it seems that the trajectory now is that it's going to become a little bit cheaper as the time goes on. Okay, so now to Western food. So for a Western dish, I would say in general, it's going to be somewhere around $6 to $7. So again, it really depends what kind of restaurant you're going to and all of that kind of stuff. But in general, some of the restaurants I went to, they were actually very modern, very nice looking restaurants. And a dish was somewhere more or less around $7. Obviously, if you're going to go somewhere, they have a lot of these restaurants that are on the rooftops that have amazing views and all of that. So those are a little bit more expensive, but still, actually, when you think about it, you go to a restaurant with an amazing view, and a dish at dinner might cost you maybe between $10 and $15, and it's actually, I would say, very good quality food as well. Now, when it comes to street food, I would say you don't really have street food per se in Turkey. You do have some maybe little bakeries and things like that, so you can have some little bakery snacks maybe, and those are very cheap for $1 or $2, but you don't quite have the street food, let's say, that you have in Southeast Asia. Now, when it comes to groceries, you have a couple of different options. So you do have supermarkets that are sort of the more international brands that have quite a few different products to choose from, and you have some value supermarkets as well. I think you have 2 or 3 different brands of those. So the value supermarkets are insanely cheap, and the other ones are a little bit more expensive. But in general, I would say that groceries are very, very cheap in Turkey. And if you want to also get some veggies or some fruits, there's quite a few of these local stores. I don't know if they work directly with farmers or what, but the vegetables and fruits look absolutely amazing there, and they taste absolutely amazing as well. And again, they are very, very cheap. Every time I buy fruits or vegetables, basically for a kilo, I just pay maybe around $1 and a bit. If you love to work from cafes like me, then going to cafes, you have actually in Turkey, in Istanbul, you have Turkish coffee, which usually is the sort of cheaper coffee to choose from. So that, I think on average, is around maybe just $1. And if you want a cappuccino, a latte, whatever, then that is going to be somewhere between, I would say, $1.50 or a couple of dollars. Actually, Starbucks here is very, very cheap. I was there the other day. I didn't buy coffee, but my friend bought, and it was, I think, just $2 for a cup of Starbucks. Now, when it comes to accommodation, accommodation is one of the things that I would say is not the best quality or is more expensive in Turkey compared to every other cost out there. And I'm not saying you can't find cheap accommodation in Istanbul. First of all, accommodation in Istanbul, I would say, is definitely a little bit more expensive than anywhere else in Turkey, but I think you would also expect that because Istanbul is a huge, massive city, and you can get an apartment if you want, if let's say if it's, especially if it's not in the central area, if it's a little bit further out, or if it's on the Asian side. So there's a huge difference whether it's on European side or Asian side. And you can find, I would say, one bedroom apartment for maybe $400-500 through Airbnb, but it's definitely not going to be new and it's not going to be very nice. Honestly, there's a lot of apartments, or sorry, there are a lot of apartments that just really don't have a nice style. They have very old school style, and if you don't mind that, then you can find some very cheap apartments. However, if you want to get a nicer looking apartment, then it's definitely going to be quite a bit more expensive. So if you're looking through Airbnb, I would say you are going to be looking more at something towards 700 or 1000, or if you want something more a little bit central, then I think all of the apartments that I looked at that were, well, everyone has their own taste, but the ones that I was looking at that sort of looked at least decent for me, they started from 1200. But in general, if you want, you can definitely find something cheaper for $400-500 if you are on a low budget. And if you're going local, if you're finding an agent, well, if you find an agent, you will need to pay agent fee, but if you're staying long term, that might make sense for you. And then you can definitely find something very, very cheap. So for that cheaper option, you probably would pay almost half the price, or maybe more, like 70%. So instead of $500, let's say you would maybe pay around $350. But in general, I would say I am not super impressed when it comes to accommodation and cost of living, when I think how much I am paying for some of the Airbnbs that I am renting right now in Istanbul. I could rent out a really nice looking villa in Bali, Indonesia, or Thailand. So it's definitely, I would say, one of the more expensive things in Istanbul. When it comes to taxis are actually, I would say, very, very affordable, very cheap. So the other day I took an Uber, and they have, by the way, their own local taxi app that is a little bit cheaper than Uber. So yesterday I took a cab, I think it was maybe around 20-25 minutes, and I paid maybe around $3 to $4. So it's really, I would say, very affordable. Do you keep in mind though that sometimes it might be a little bit difficult to catch a taxi or get Uber, especially if it's the peak hours, or especially Friday, Saturday night when it's peak hours, if it's raining. I have had some issues trying to get an Uber. It takes really long time, and if you're going short distance, sometimes they might not want to come pick you up. When it comes to public transportation, you have a few different options. You have your subway, you have buses, and then you also have some ferries if you're going from Asian side to European side, or the other way around. Oh, and by the way, one thing also that you need to understand, so this is also to do with accommodation, why I said that it's much cheaper on Asian side, is because let's say if you want to go from Asian side to European side, or the other way around, transportation takes quite a long time because they don't have a direct subway line. So you need to go basically sort of around through the bridge and all of that. and it can take, depending on where you're going to from and where you're going to, it might take usually around 1 hour, which is quite a bit of time. Whereas let's say if you are just on European side and you want to go from one point to other, usually it's not going to take you more than 20 minutes. A subway ride is going to be max maybe 10 minutes, and then it's just about walking to the subway. If you're taking an Uber, again, it's probably only going to be around 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending again where exactly you're going and depending on the traffic. If the traffic is really bad, sometimes that half an hour can turn into an hour. So when it comes to public transportation, yes, you do have all of these different options, and it's pretty easy to use, and I would say it's pretty convenient, again, except if you're going from one side to the other. And by the way, I definitely prefer the European side, so this is something to keep in mind. You will pay more money, but for me it's worth paying that extra money to stay on the European side. And costs for public transportation, it really depends on what kind of ticket you buy. So you can buy one-time tickets, you can buy basically two tickets combined, 3 tickets combined, a pack of 10 tickets, or you can get Istanbul card and use that. So it's going to be anywhere from, I would say, 50 to 70 cents per one ride. Now, going out, so it really depends what you consider going out, but in general, most of sort of, let's say, activities are going to be pretty cheap. So if, let's say, you want to go see a movie ticket is, I think a basic ticket can be as cheap as $3 or $4. And even the really nice, like the beds and all of that, they are maybe just $7-8 for the really premium experience. Same kind of goes, I just looked at some rock climbing, and that also was, I think one day pass was maybe just $6-7. So it's really, I think, not that bad. If you want to go out in terms of nightlife, it's a little bit different kind of case, because Istanbul and Turkey in general is a Muslim country. So obviously alcohol, as in I think any Muslim country, is more expensive. So if we're looking at something like a pint of beer, that is going to cost anywhere from, I would say, $2 to $4, again depending on where exactly you are going. And if we're looking at a glass of wine, I would say on average it's around maybe $4, and a cocktail is maybe between $6 to $7. So it really depends what you compare this to. Obviously, if let's say I compare this to Europe, where I was not that long ago, then well, that was pretty much the same. If you compare that to some other countries, let's say I was in Georgia just now and it was way cheaper, so this seems kind of expensive. When it comes to phones, so the first time you get a SIM card, you need to pay a little bit more for the SIM. So I think it was maybe around $20 to $25. And then after that, if you want to top up data, then I think 10 gigabytes is around $6 or $7, which I think is very good. And the best one, by the way, is Turkcell, as far as I know anyway. The best one, that's the one that I found to be the best and the one I use. So it's very cheap and it seems pretty good. It's around, internet is around 40 megabytes per second. When it comes to co-working spaces, there are quite a few co-working spaces all around the city. And in general, a co-working space, from what I saw, is somewhere between $120 and $150. I haven't found one co-working space with a lot of international digital nomads though. When it comes to gym, there are a few different options. So there are some gyms that are sort of the big chains, and they are very modern, very nice looking gyms. And those ones, so Well, it actually depends. If you're coming here just for a month, they ask you for a little bit higher fee at the beginning. So I think it was around $70, 70, $80. Yeah, $70 for a month to begin with, and then $50 after. And there's a lot of sort of more local, low-key gyms that are still pretty decent, pretty okay gyms. And those gyms are going to be around plus minus $30. When it comes to medical stuff, I haven't done too much, or well, I haven't actually done anything, but well, I have heard some stuff, and from what I heard, medical stuff isn't really that expensive in Turkey. I actually even know a lot of people, they come to Turkey for medical stuff, and when we're looking at something like PCR test, I think it's only like $35 or something like that, which I think is definitely on the cheaper side. Okay, so I think these are all of sort of the basic necessity things, all of that. If you're listening to this as a podcast, if you have any questions, then take the title, put it on YouTube, find the video, and leave your questions in the comments. I'll try to answer as many of those as I can. If you think you might want to include something else, or maybe you think I said something wrong, then again, do leave those comments in the comment section. And as I said, if you are interested in digital marketing, online business, all of that kind of stuff, check out all of the links in the description. I have some very useful freebies. Also, make sure to check out some of my other content and my other social media accounts, as my Instagram and all of that. If you found this useful, make sure to smash the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, put on those notifications. Stay awesome, and I'll see you soon.